I can feel you judging me, you know. Look at this guy. Why would he do something so pointless and stupid? If you don't mind, I have an unrelated question for you, if you'd care to answer. Let's say that you live a simple, quiet life. Nobody knows you well, and nobody remembers you for long. You're satisfied with keeping your own company, yet there's a nagging feeling at the back of your mind. Doubt. Am I really happy? Am I lying to myself? What do I actually want? Over and over and over, without end. Let's say this continues until one day, suddenly, fortune smiles upon you, and you become richer than you could have possibly ever imagined. Now here's the kicker. What would you do?
You're in too deep to go back again. Cash is pay to play. You want more hits than lemonade. No, you don't own me. You don't even know me. This vagabond with a two-pop pack to the great beyond. Say genuine, a ground floor art I can help you find. You're a dreamer, call me when you're Bieber. And when they play it, you can't help but sing along. That's nothing odd, that's nothing wrong. 'Cause a good song never dies. It just reminds you of where you were the first time it made you cry, the first time you felt alive. No good song never. No good song never. The first time they made you cry, the first time you felt alive. No good song never. The wonder drug don't work no more, think it took too much. Your equity, make the caffeine be your weaponry. What is the reason there never was one needed? It's all around, but it weighs too much to slow you down. It's the time to act, 'cause the best defense is the timeless track. No, you don't own me, you don't even know me. But when they play it, you can't help but sing along. That's nothing odd, that's nothing wrong. 'Cause a good song never dies. It just reminds you of where you were the first time it made you cry, the first time you felt alive. No good song never. No good song never. The first time they made you cry, the first time you felt alive. No good song never.
There you go. You reached 10,000. Are you going to keep that? How do you feel?
Nothing.
All right then. Congratulations. You did it. Do you feel accomplished now?
What do you mean, accomplished? I never intended to do this just to brag, if that's what you mean.
Then why would you spend your time on something as pointless as this? Are you that bored, or are you just mentally defective?
Not afraid to mince words, are you? I like you. Assuming you're not a figment of my imagination, who are you?
You can call me Dignity.
Dignity? Is that supposed to be a joke?
No, and you didn't answer the question. Why would you do something this absurd? Are you just looking for distractions, or do you have brain damage? Do you even know how much time you've spent doing this?
580 days, exactly 50,112,000 seconds, give or take some for mathematical error and overlapping time.
I'm surprised you even kept track.
You'd be surprised by many things I do. Now, to answer your burning question, why would I do 10,000 FORMA? After discovering the true endgame that does not exist, why would I do something so seemingly stupid? The short answer? That question can be answered with another question. Why does it matter? Time has no meaning or value, and it never has. I've spent the last 580 days chasing something so insignificant that it makes no difference. 10,000 FORMA is no different from remaining at 0. The long answer? Do you remember what I've said so long ago? I'm talking to you. Yes, you. Do you remember what I've said so long ago?
Do you remember that feeling of amazement and wonder you felt when you experienced the second dream? I know you do, because I was there with you. Do you really think it's fine to chase that feeling? To do absolutely anything to experience that feeling again?
No. That shouldn't even be a question. And yet, the people that call me insane are the same people that happily slog through unfathomable levels of grinding, all the while having rewards dangled over their heads as if taunting a starving animal with food. Everybody's a little crazy. I'm just a little bit ahead of the curve. What happened to us? People have dropped off like flies, and what was once a glorious vessel of a game now feels more like a ship that starts sinking at random intervals.
Would you care to explain?
I could go on and on for days about any and every fault with the game or with the developers, but in the end, I'd be no different from a broken record. And to be honest, I'm tired of it.
Of what?
Of being disappointed. In the time I've spent going from 1,000 to 10,000, my feelings for the game have quite literally not changed.
And what would that be?
Boredom. Ironically, I find grinding FORMA to be more entertaining than doing virtually anything else. Challenge? What challenge? All you need is a Riven and a decent build, and you've basically won against anything that isn't directly immune to players. Story. What story? Things have been so stagnant that I've spent more time dreaming up and writing my own stories than actually playing. Writing's a borderline therapeutic experience for me now. Other games keep me busy, sure, but lately every time I load up Warframe, I almost want to cry over the amount of nothing present. Even more so, because nothing lasts.
What do you mean?
I'm sure you know that Warframe's growing old. 7 years old and counting, to be precise. Age is not always a good thing. Are we better now compared to where we were 7 years ago? Arguably, yes. But are we actually? If you ask me, no.
Why do you think that?
It's simple. Is Warframe more populated now than 7 years ago? Yes. Is Warframe better now compared to where it was 7 years ago? Yes. Is Warframe capable of learning from its mistakes? Arguably, yes.
What's your point?
My point is Warframe doing a good job of keeping people interested? No. For the record, I'm not talking about the same veterans that have been playing this game for the past few years. Obviously, these people, including myself, just have a ludicrous amount of time put into the game. I'm talking about potential new players and customers. Since, you know, at the end of the day, the point of Warframe is to make money. I don't care if Tencent owns Warframe now. Regardless of who owns the game, the goal of the game is to make money. Because free-to-play games are nothing if not a business.
Go on.
I've always found it interesting. People constantly review and circle jerk about how great of a free-to-play game Warframe is. But nobody will ever mention Warframe's inability to attract and keep new players. Do you remember the new player experience? That was appealing until all of us learned that all it did was change the tutorial quest and add in a fancy cinematic. Did it do anything for the bare-bones explanation of everything else in the game? No. Do you remember Railjack being announced, hyped, and eventually released after years of waiting and promises that the game would change unimaginably? That was appealing, until all of us learned that all it was is another segregated zone of farming. Did it do anything to connect the game together, like it was promised?
This is not new information.
Of course, it's not new, but what people fail to understand is that without player growth, without content growth, and without technological growth, this game is going to remain stagnant. And for a 7-year-old game, that's not good. The attempt to improve the game for new players barely made a dent. The attempt to expand the game several times with bigger and bolder dreams has more often than not resulted in disaster. Does that mean Warframe is dying now? Of course it's not. But it isn't exactly getting any more popular either. Of course, people here now will keep playing the game, but nothing lasts forever. People get old, people get families, life happens, life changes. From my perspective, the game remains as it is only because of the veterans that remain here supporting the game. But nothing lasts forever. You're aware as much as I am. People leave. Sometimes for good, sometimes not.
And so?
So, the problem is that even if DE is owned by Tencent, the only thing keeping DE relevant is Warframe. And if Warframe drops off in relevance, what are they supposed to do? Make a different game? After what happened last time? Honestly, the only reason people care about DE is because of Warframe. So even if they tried to do something new, it wouldn't succeed without serious money put into it. If you know DE's history, you'd know that they made Warframe as a last-ditch effort to avoid going bankrupt. As you can tell, it worked. So what's the most logical thing to do? Drag everything out? Time equals money, does it not? When you have a successful game on your hands, the most reasonable thing to do would be to squeeze as much money out of it as possible. No? Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Steve, Scott, and everyone else on the main team stay working on Warframe until they turn 60. In a strange way, I can kind of understand why the game's grind is made to consume your life, like World of Warcraft. However, Warframe isn't World of Warcraft. It isn't League of Legends. It isn't Counter-Strike.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean is that Warframe doesn't have a massive following. It constantly fluctuates in players, because all anyone actually cares about is content, which is always the same. New Warframe, new weapons, new quest. Does anything about the game change besides more things to get and level up? No. Even then, every time DE tries to do something brand new, it always falls short. The second Dream worked as well as it did because they never overhyped it. They never tickled our balls with anticipation. They said nothing until the update finally launched and it blew everyone away. because it was the first time any of us had ever seen what a cinematic story in Warframe could look like. It was the first time they'd ever attempted to bring an actual story into Warframe. And it worked wonderfully, because they didn't want to risk spoiling us or overselling the entire update. And ever since then, it's never been the same. Sure, every once in a while we get a glimmer of brilliance within a quest or update, but does it ever measure up to the second Dream? No. And it never will again.
And what then?
And then? Nothing. It doesn't matter if they give us more of the same shit or not in the future. It doesn't matter if Duviri Paradox is the best update since Second Dream or not. It doesn't even matter if Conclave gets overhauled, or raids brought back, or anything. With how much the game's popularity wavers around content, nobody cares about Warframe anymore, apart from having things to do and level. And at this point, there's only 3 groups of people you should feel legitimately sorry for. The art team, the sound team, and literally anyone who's still trying to make money off this game. There will always be a loot cave. There will always be a meta. There will always be a broken update launch. And there will always be a lack of endgame. Warframe has virtually been the same cycle of development ceaselessly, starting at 0 and ending exactly right back where you started. The biggest difference between that and putting 10,000 FORMA on a Warframe is that FORMA are just numbers. Numbers never lie or promise to get better. Like I've said before, time has no meaning or value, and it never has. You want to call me crazy? Maybe you should go look in a mirror the next time another update isn't as advertised.
So what will you do now?
Besides wait for Warframe 2 to eventually be announced? Honestly, I think I'll just write. What else will I do but write? If anything, the creative potential of Warframe's universe is the only thing that keeps me from just necking myself. And so, I write. Because I know that DE will never take advantage of their world's potential. Either because they lack the capability or gumption to flesh out their game's lore or make any interesting stories. And also because I find it funny that people enjoy fan lore.
And what about the FORMA?
There is no more FORMA. Did you not listen to me before? 10,000 is no different from 0. I lose nothing because there never was anything to lose. The story's done. There's nothing to do for me but to write more and watch how this game unfolds over the next 15 years. Will it sink? Will it float? I couldn't tell you the answer to that. But what I can tell you is that I will be there, waiting until the end. After all, nothing lasts forever. Not you, not me, not Warframe, not DE. All we can do is sit back and watch. 10,000 is no different from 0. Yet 0 symbolizes nothing. So it must mean something. Am I wrong? Until everything is over. Then maybe, just maybe, we can all laugh and pretend that anything we did here ever mattered.
Thank you. I'll say goodbye soon, though it's the end of the world. Don't blame yourself now, and if it's true, I will surround you and give life to And if it's true, I will surround you and give life to a world that's our own. Finally, I'll say goodbye, though it's the end of the world. Don't blame yourself. And if it's true, I will surround you and give life to a world that's our own. I'll say goodbye, though it's the end of the world. Don't blame yourself. And if it's true, I will surround you and give life to a world. Give life to a world that's our own. Goodbye.